So this is the beginning of session 3, which is new features. For those of you, like I realized, there's some of you who I haven't met before. So welcome, Jack Pillemer, EduSoft, pedagogical implementation, teacher training. That's my world. Today's session is going to be, in some senses for some of you, repetition of certain aspects that I've touched on before, but the idea is now to go into some of the features. Some of the features I haven't mentioned, but there are going to be some features which I've definitely mentioned. But here, this time it would be to go into them in a little bit more detail, both technically, in other words, where they are and how do you find them and so on. But perhaps more importantly today is the pedagogical value of these features. We have been developing new features. We always are developing new features. But last year and the year before, I imagine Corona had something to do with it. But certainly we opened our ears to what people needed in a very, very definite sense and prioritized our decisions as what to develop and how to develop and what to add to the platform based very much on the needs of the time. Now, that's an approach that we always have and we intend to continue having. It's not something new. We try to listen very carefully to what you need as teachers, what you need as institutions, what you need as coordinators. And if we can possibly develop, add, whether it be content or features or concepts or administrative shortcuts, if we can do that, that's what we try to do. So it's in that spirit that I'm going to show you the features that basically have come out over the last year. And there's new stuff over the last year, yes. And there's new stuff that's in the pipeline that will be coming out. Okay, so let me jump into it then. The points I'm going to be dealing with today, as I said, some of them you do know, is I'm going to look at the notification center and going to present it to you in a way which was more developed than in the past, both how to create notifications and also why and what to use them for, suggestions which might be useful for you. I'm going to be looking again at the studio video tutorials, again show you where they are, showing you how to get them into Spanish if you need them, and discussing what's the function and how we can bring them, how you should, as teachers or as administrators, make your students aware of them. The video conferencing planner, which is like the online meetings that you have, the synchronous meetings, I'll be showing you again how to set that up. The objectives and the reflection, I'm going to talk a little bit about why they're there, what their function is. I'm going to then also be talking about the magazine enrichment content, explaining why we've done it, what you can do with it as teachers, sort of broadening it, ideas that I have. I'm going to be looking at the assessment center, which I haven't talked about at all, where you don't always feel what's going on there, but there's a lot that's going on there that has changed and has been upgraded and updated in many ways. A lot of it is sort of in the back and you don't necessarily even know about it, but I'm going to let you know about it. And some of it is very much in your face and in the student's face. And I will show you what that is all about. We have a grade book. I'm going to actually tell you what it is about. I'm going to show you an example of how it works for you to consider if this is a feature that you'd like to use for yourselves. We have a concept of scheduling automatically the assigning of content, and I'm going to talk about that. There's not much I can show, but I'm going to talk about how that works, and that's something which you might consider valuable in following up. So those were it. Sorry, let me just go back. So now what I'm going to do is take the next, let's say 5-10 minutes. I'm going to talk about each one. After 10 minutes, it's now, yeah, okay. Hopefully by in another 10 minutes, I should be off the PowerPoint and onto the platform. First as the student platform as a user, and then go to the back and look at it from the perspective of the teacher. So that's how it's going to be working today. So, but just in terms of, bear with me, even though you're looking at a PowerPoint, I'm just going to give you the main benefits as we see it of the features that I've mentioned, and a brief description of what they are. So the notification center, as you know, allows you to send messages to your teachers if you're an administrator or a coordinator, or to your students if you're the teacher, and you can send it to a whole class. You can't send it to individual students. Hi, Idonia. Nice to see your face. Welcome. The point is, these messages really give the teacher a real direct connection with the students. It can be written in different languages. You can put in links. It's the first thing that the student sees when they log on, and they can't get past it without saying, I don't want to see it anymore. In other words, it doesn't disappear. It stays there. They've got to actually get rid of it. So that's the first. The second is the student video tutorials, which basically help students get a grasp of the platform, of how it works, and not technically only. It's the technical side mixed with the pedagogical side, with tips on what to do. It deals with the reading, the listening, the speaking in a very organized fashion. They're short, for about 3 or 4 minutes each. So, and they tutorials, and as I said, they can be seen also with Spanish subtitles, which is useful for lower level students. And then the learning objectives, they've been introduced because students, we as teachers have got access to the learning objectives through the scope and sequence. As I showed you yesterday in the teacher's management system, you've got the scope and sequence, or you should have it, okay? And but this now puts it out in front for the student and says, this is what we're going to be learning. This is what we're going to be doing. Get yourself ready. It kind of focuses the learning. And that is followed by, this is totally new for us, this reflection screen, which is a screen which makes the student consider what they have done, what their weaknesses and strengths are. It takes them to the beginning where they started and think, oh, well, I've gone through this process and I've done A, B, C, and D. Have I learned anything there? Or what have I learned? Reflection is such an important part of learning, being able to think about your own learning, what helps you, what doesn't help you, what goes in, what doesn't. All of that is so important. And this is sort of encourages that process. It also helps them break it down into little pieces. The magazine enrichment, I said to you last time, I love the magazine. I think it's got such great value as an enrichment. And I'm going to talk about what you can do as teachers to incorporate it, as to push it, to make it part of your lessons, to enrich your lessons and your students' learning outside the formal framework of the lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. So I'm going to talk about that and show you that. Then the assessment center, which I already said, is an assessment center in which there have been lots of things. There's updated versions of the placement test, new versions of the placement test. And the placement test, by the way, has been constructed slightly differently than in the past, in that it is now based on a bank of questions. It's not one test or another test. It's a bank which comes together. That means every student who does the placement test will get something slightly different. So that makes it more secure and more valuable. There's been a lot of work on the user experience, and I'm going to show you this. the whole test world is a little more comfortable for the user. It tells him exactly what he has to do, or he or her, what they have to do. There's a timer to tell them how long they've got, and so that they can be aware of that. If there's a crash and their computer, the internet falls, they can resume the test in the same place. Everything is remembered. That saves a lot of work. You don't have to reassign tests as administrators. And there are new question types and new templates and so on. That's for the student. For the teachers, as I mentioned, there's new security in the sense that it closes off your browser so that you only got the test. I mentioned the bank. I've repeated myself. The placement test with the bank. We've also got now randomization of all midterm and course tests, which means that students will either get version A or version B, that means that different people will be getting different versions when they get their midterm or their course tests, and it's randomized. And if for any reason they've got to redo it, they will be given the other version automatically. So that's another element of improved security, I suppose. Also, not all of you use our courses exactly as we have them as core courses. You've got variations of these courses, or you've got whatever. And it's possible now, because of this new internal organization within the test environment, for us to more easily put the test together for your needs. If you've got a different kind of a course, the way things are put together are different from the core, it's possible for us to create tests which reflect your needs more easily than we were able to do it in the past. We always were able to do it in the past, but it was always quite a problem. Now it's a lot easier and probably more accurate. Coming up, it's not quite available soon. There was going to be data visualization because our questions are tagged, so we can then analyze who's doing what, how well they're doing, what aspects. There's all kinds of dashboards that will be released at some point, which will allow us to analyze the data on those tests. Then we've got the grade book. Now, the grade book basically is a feature that allows teachers to enter and record grades manually. Now, there's a whole world of grades that are recorded automatically: completion, lesson tests, the quizzes, the midterm test, the course test. Those are all automatically included in data that you can access, and assess. Okay. But you may have, let's say, students doing a project or doing a presentation, and you want to give them grades for that. How do you include it in the system? Well, this allows you to put in grades manually, and it will mesh with the system. So that's the grade book. Enables teachers to keep a systematic record, and it integrates all students' grades manually entered and automated in one place. So that's the grade book. Then the automated learning scheduler. This is the option which allows to define in advance what classes are going to get which courses when, what classes are going to get which units when. In other words, to work out the year, and that means automatically it will be assigned. That's based on time. But it doesn't have to be based on time. It can be based on achievement. In other words, a student who has reached a certain level, has completed a certain percentage of the work, okay, so his next unit will open up, or his next course will open up, depending on what is decided. It might be that if he gets a certain grade average, then it opens up something. If he passes, get a passing grade for the midterm, then he moves on, and so on. In other words, that can all be defined, and that is done together with us. With EduSoft, you sit and you meet our project manager, and you work with the project manager, define what you want, and that gets set up if you find it useful. And clearly that can be a great work saver for everybody. So it standardizes and it regulates, and it frees up teachers, or it frees up administrators. Okay, it's a setup. It has to be set up. It says simple one-time setup, but the details have to be very clearly understood, and then it runs. So that's it. As I promised, I wasn't going to carry on talking like this for the rest of the session. I'm now going to jump onto the platform, and I'm going to show you these things in a bit more detail. So bear with me for a moment. I'm going to stop sharing, or maybe, yeah, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, can you see that? I can't, one second, I've lost you all.
Yes.
I know you're there, but I can't see you, and I'm just trying to see why I can't. One moment, everyone, I apologize. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I can see everyone. So you said you can't see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log in, and I'm going to go through some of the things that I've showed you before. Again, I apologize. No, apologize is not the word, but I know that this is a repetition to a certain extent of some of the stuff you've seen, but I'm going to take it clearly and slowly and focus only on these specific issues that I've mentioned up till now. So I log in, and now the first thing I see is this message. Okay. The teacher, who happens to be J Teacher, which happens to be me, decided this is what my students should see. And it says, important, in Spanish, Google Translate. El, whatever that says, las, whatever that says, su prueba del curso estará, whatever. Okay, in other words, you can write in whatever language you want.
Do you need help to Spanish?
What's that?
Do you need to speak in Spanish? Do you need help? Or
I don't need help
okay.
now.
Okay.
Because I've got it here in English, so I can understand it myself. But what I wanted to really point out to you is you can do whatever you want. You can write it in Spanish, you can write it in English, and it's a message board. It's a way of telling students stuff. So if you have any questions, contact me. This says on this and this date, you've got your test. Don't forget. It's telling them you're going to graduate. Don't forget to go and do your test. Do it on this date. Maybe you can write there. I thought of writing. Do you want to smile like the people in the picture? Well, then study for your test, which will be on this date, this time, and so on. Okay. So now that's one possible message. I'm sending an administrative message. I'm trying to do it in a way that makes it very clear. I could do this. Here's another example. Okay. Good wishes for 2022. I'd like to wish you a healthy and productive happy year, happy Easter, happy Passover, happy Ramadan. Just be happy. Okay. I can send the message and I can write whatever I want. And look what I've done. I can put up my own pictures. So in this case, I've included a picture of myself, but it could be a picture of anything you want. Okay. And so it can be quite creative and communicative, and that's the aim of it. Okay, here's another example. Join the crowd. Did you know that EduSoft is really active on LinkedIn? Don't know if you did know that. Have a look and see if some of the posts giving learning tips would be useful to you. And today there is a post on time management for students, teachers also, I suppose, anybody working. Click on the link and have a look. Well, I can click on the link, but what I really want to show you is you can include a link. You can include a link to whatever you want. So if you want to, I've included this to you because I'm telling you that you should follow us on LinkedIn. You should go in and see what's there. Your students might also gain if they go in and see. But I want to say any link you want. You want to put in whatever you want. You want to put in the video of from YouTube. You can put it in here. You can do what you like. Okay, so it's a useful tool. The idea is it's to create a sense of communication between the teacher and his class. Hey guys.
Jack, sorry,
yes.
How much is the maximum message that we can post?
I've never got so more. I've done it. What do you mean, like this? You mean like I've done 3? Is that what you're saying? How many is the maximum?
Yeah.
I have no idea, Freddie. I'm sure you can do as many as you want. You don't want to drive your students crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah, and you're going to see, you'll send it. The next week you'll delete it and put up a new one. In other words, it doesn't have to stay there. And the student doesn't have to see all of them. After a while, after he's seen it, he can say, don't show again. And he will never see it again. But the first time he has to see it. So I don't want to see this again. Don't show. You know what? Maybe I'll keep it here because I might show this to somebody else. But okay. So I'm just now closing them out. And that's the end of my notifications. The next thing is student tutorials. If you remember, it's under the help here. We've got video tutorials, and we've got here the video tutorials. Here's the topics: time management, writing, vocabulary, grammar. Let me take one of them and just show you. So let's say speaking. Let's see if I hope you can hear.
Welcome to the English Discoveries student videos.
Yeah, you can hear, good.
In these videos, we show you how to get the most out of your English Discoveries learning platform. Today's video will show you how to get the most out of our speaking lessons. English Discoveries provides you with lots of valuable speaking practice. Each unit has a speaking lesson which focuses on a different function, such as asking for help, apologizing, or expressing opinions.
Okay, so it goes. Let's just take a little bit more.
To improve your pronunciation of any of the sentences by using the Record Myself panel.
So what I want to show, it's got this kind of sense of what it is all about, what the content is. It's also got how to record yourself, what's the point of recording yourself, the pedagogical value of recording yourself, that you can send it to you. In other words, it's got lots and lots of stuff that students need. And at the end,
And use them in future situations. Even if you don't know someone who is a native English speaker, practice speaking English.
This was meant to be, I was meant to find the place. I should have found it exactly. This is the open speaking.
Once you have recorded your answer, you can listen to it by clicking on here.
All right.
And
I think I've made it clear. At the end, there are tips on what to do and how to use it. All in all, why am I spending so much time on this? I mean, it's a new feature, and it's not meant to just sit there. It should be included in your orientation process. You take on new students, you should direct them, whether you send them emails or whether you show it to them or whether you've got webinars. As new students, you've got them learning, you should point out the value of looking through these videos. What it gives them is a real orientation that is needed. And so often I find that in my involvement with universities and schools, the issue of orientation, initial orientation, getting everybody to know where they're going and how to work and what to do is the part that is a weak link. It's like, go ahead and do it. Well, not everybody knows how to go ahead and do it. So this is part of that orientation and can really help in that process. If you can direct them there, if you can show the stuff, if teachers can show the stuff, it can be very, very useful. All right, so that's the videos. The next is the objectives. Let me just get back here. The next point were the objectives and here we go, objectives and the reflection. So this is a new feature for those who may not have seen it before. I showed it previously yesterday, I think. New objectives. Click on them and it gives you the objectives of this lesson. So here it says, this unit is about occupations and jobs. In this unit, you will practice words and phrases associated with occupations and jobs and use the present simple to talk about daily routines, identify complete sentences that use the present simple. That's one of the objectives. Another objective is practice the comprehension strategy of identifying different text types. Read a poster advertising a job fair and tell a friend about it. You'll watch a video and so on. Watch slideshow about finding the right job. It basically defines what they're going to work on. And I told you our units are organized around topics. So this is around the topic of getting a job, and everything will be around it. Okay. Once they've seen that and they've identified what they're going to do, first of all, it's pretty clear. Now they know what they're going to do. They're going to read this. They're going to talk about this. They're going to watch this. It tells them in advance what it is. Basically, each of these is one sentence about each of the lessons. That's what it is. Okay. Then when they finished and they get to their last lesson, and at the end of the last lesson, they do their last test, their last quiz, which in units 9 and 10 are called Let's Review. And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to run till the end just because I want to show you. And so I'm not going to talk about this. We talked about this yesterday. Here we go. Okay, or the day before, it was on Monday. And here we've got reflections, and we've got the same objectives to remind them of where they were supposed to be going. And then they can reflect themselves. Well, how well do I understand words and phrases associated with occupations? Have I learned anything? Do I now know 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 words about occupations, or don't I? Do I know the present progressive, the present simple, and so on? And they then can choose very well, not so well, that wouldn't, you can't choose both. Okay, and they choose, and it's not a matter of choosing, it's a matter of them thinking. And this whole process is to get students to think about their learning, to say what they have achieved, what they haven't achieved. They do save it. It gets saved and they can see what's written there, but it's for them, remember. It's not for you. It's not a test. It's an internal thought process about their own learning. And I can see teachers taking the screen at the end of a unit and saying, well, let's see. Well, how do you remember? Who remembers vocabulary this way? Who remembers vocabulary this way? How do we know that you know this? How can you, in other words, to use it in order to increase their own self-awareness of their own learning strategies. That reflection, I said it yesterday, is so important in learning. The ability to think about how you get it right or how you don't get it right and why. And other people's approaches might help you, might not help you. We're all different learners. But this kind of reflection is a framework in which for the platform to sort of bring it to the student, and for you as a teacher, if you want to develop it. Okay, so that's with regard to the reflection and the objectives. Then let's go to the magazine enrichment. Okay, magazine enrichment. So again, let's see occupations. I don't know let's see which ones I'll take. Oops. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, you remember this was about jobs, occupations. So the student has the option now, doesn't have to because you can't know. In other words, it's not something which you can follow up on unless you ask them to talk about in class, but it's not, you won't get a report on whether they have or haven't done it. It's not part of the lesson or part of the unit in the sense that you've got reports. You've got no reports in the TMS, whether they've gone there or they haven't gone there. It is enrichment. You as a teacher can tell them to go there, ask them to go there. If you're online teaching, you personally can go there and do it as a community, as a class. In other words, the options are all there. What you want to do with it, you can do with it. You can simply tell them about it, or you can ask them to do something with it. So let's just take the first one. Not the first one. I like the second one, Foods with Style. This is about a photographer that takes pictures of foods. I mean, that's her job. So that's how it connects to the unit. That's the only connection. It's her job. If you see here, the job of a food stylist is to make food look good and attractive in photos. And this, again, is the basic level. I'm just reminding those of you who might have missed this, and I've said it more than once. It always starts off with an introductory question. Then it gives we've got the text. The font size can be increased. The vocabulary words appear. You can click on them. Just reminding, because there's some people who may have missed the previous sessions and don't remember. This will give you the word without the meaning. Package, you can hear it.
Package.
Okay. But if you don't know what it means, you can simply right click and it opens the dictionary. And if you don't, and for some reason it doesn't appear or whatever, you've got another dictionary on the top where you can write the word. I keep on stressing that there's no reason why a student from basic one, I would say not first discoveries, from basic one can struggle with this and come out with an understanding on their own. Not easy, but it can be done. And obviously the higher your level, the better you can do it. And then you have this quiz here, which is a self-testing quiz. What does the article say about foods that you see in magazines? And it works exactly the same as ED, but it's a self-testing quiz, no record except for the user. Okay, it's not recorded anywhere. This is in the arts and entertainment section. They can go and look at other topics and find other articles, not this topic if this doesn't interest them. And of course, the feature that allows students to move upwards. Basic, no, I want to try deal with it on a harder level, intermediate level, the same, different vocabulary now, multi-layered techniques, skewers, much more difficult, or in the advanced level, much longer article. Okay. For me, the potential of this feature, magazine article, as a springboard for your teaching over and above the platform is very real. For me, it's a real treasure. I mean, for me as a teacher, it's a place where they do the platform, they do all of this, but here I can kind of have fun. I can give projects, I can ask them to report, I can ask them to talk about it. I can ask one person to do it on, we've got 3 articles, enrichment. Let's divide the class into 3. Next week, come back and talk about your article. Write 2 sentences about your article. Just so many things that can be done. Find 5 new words that you learned in this article. Go into breakout rooms, look at an article together. Just so many possibilities. Okay. So those are the enrichment. And again, they'll sit there and not be used unless teachers encourage students to see the value that there is there. That requires somebody to point it out, to exploit it. Just like I said with the videos, and just like I said with everything, the teacher here is so critical in getting the platform to be used effectively. Okay, then I told you we have the assessment center. So let's just go back here. And I said this is all new and you don't necessarily feel it, but I want to point out some things. So if I go to the assessment center, here it is. It says that I've got I can do the placement test. And it might be, this would be, let's say, usually this would not be once a student is already working, but you'll still got to see. In other words, the placement test can be placed in any class. And if you're testing an entire intake of 1,000 people, they're all put in one class. They all do the placement test. And after that, they're divided into their levels. That's one way of doing it anyway. So if I look at the test, I say start test. I don't know if any of you have done the placement test in the past, so you'll feel the difference. As I said, first of all, it's now a bank of questions which have been put together, and they will not always be, will not be the same. So if two people are doing the placement test, one next to the other, they'll be getting different tests, different parts. It's kind of all mixed up, taken from different aspects. So there are lots of, it creates many, it's much harder than for the placement test to get out of the system and then be shared, and then so people get to know it. Okay. So this whole introduction is much kinder than what was previously to the eye. And it says, welcome to this. And it tells you you're going to do a listening, and you're going to do a reading, and you're going to do some grammar. It tells you that it's 60 minutes. It asks you to complete the test with your headset, and it asks you to choose a level that you think you are on. I'm going to choose basic, and I'm actually not going to do the test. And you've also got the language here. Never mind, that actually doesn't affect anything. Start the test, and we begin. And so the instructions become much clearer to everybody. This tells me I'm in section 1, part 1. Read the text and answer the questions that follow. And then I will have my questions here, and I will answer and answer and answer. Sorry, I'm just going to run through this very quickly. And when I'm finished this first part, which is reading comprehension, it says, okay, section 1's come to an end. Now it's part 2, listening, listen to the recordings, and so on. And then part 3 is the use of English, which is grammar and vocabulary. And we'll come through till the end of it. At the top right-hand corner, there is a clock, which allows students to keep time. They've been told how many minutes they've got. It's going on forever. Okay, we've come to the end. It says you haven't answered all the questions, and I know. You've completed the first cycle. Okay, I've completed the first cycle. There's a second cycle to see if I should get better or lower, higher or lower. And so I go through the process again. And that's the end of my placement test. Oh, I apologize. Please bear with me for a second while I open it up again.
Sorry, Jack, do we have any video tutorial for the placement test?
Say that again.
Do we have a video tutorial for the placement test?
Freddie, I don't know why I'm not hearing you. Say that again, third time.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but just say it again. For some reason, I couldn't hear.
Okay, perfect. Not only, I like to know if we have a placement test video tutorial too.
Oh, a tutorial for how to do the placement test. Good that you ask. Good that you ask. It's a perfectly great question, and I got a good answer. One second, let me do this. 1 second, and mute everybody. 1 second. Mute all. Yes. Okay. Freddie, I'll answer you in a second, and I've got an answer which is very clear. And I want to just get back to the platform, share my screen, and share the screen. And all right, back on track, right? You can see the screen, right? Yeah. So Freddie, the answer is this. It's in the pipeline and should be out within about, I don't know, a week or 2 or 3. We should have a video on assessment in general, which will include placement test information. Okay. What we do have is certainly print materials for assessment, for placement. In other words, an instruction which is a print, which you can, like a PDF document, with that we definitely have, but there's a video coming out on it very soon. Okay, so thanks for that question. So here we were in the assessment center. Okay, you saw I kicked myself out by mistake. So I could resume the test It doesn't have to be reset. That was a lucky kick out. I can show you something. Okay, I didn't mean to do that, but I kicked myself out, and here it is. Okay, so it's possible to resume it if something happens like that. It means it doesn't require the administrator to do anything. Now I've got another test which is set for later, which I have 2 days to do. That's the final test for basic 1. I'm not going to go into it, but it's the same concept. Very clear instructions. Okay. And my test results will be here down here. I will see what I've done in previous tests. Okay. Again, I explained to you last time, this is not a real class. This is just me doing all kinds of things. So don't necessarily look for logic in what appears here. Okay. But it tells me this person did the basic 2 midterm test and got 20. And this person did the placement test once before and landed up in basic 1. Okay, it just, but bottom line, it should be logical. But in my case, it's just me doing different tests and trying things out. Your students, each time they will see their own test results, and so on.
Sorry, Jack. I have a couple of questions about the placement test. What happens if the takers or the students is taking the test and the first 5 questions he select in a wrong way? The test close and go and suggest that the student need to start in first discovery, for example, or the students can advance in the other questions.
No, what happens is, let me just again put everyone on mute. Okay. To answer your question, in the placement test, the way it works is that the students do 2 rounds, meaning they show what they know or don't know. It starts on a place depending on what they chose. If they chose basic or intermediate or advanced, that's where the test basically starts. And then it either moves higher or it moves lower depending on how they performed in that first part. So it should get, in other words, if they're finding it difficult, it should get easier, because and if they're finding it easy, it should get harder in the second part. And that's the way it works. Freddie, did I answer your question?
Yeah, but maybe because in some cases, many students told us that when they are taking the test, yeah, maybe the first 5 questions they answer in bad selection. So maybe they don't have any about the English. So my question always is if the placement test closed and say, okay, you don't know nothing about English, you need to start in first discovery.
No, they will still go through the same process. But you know what, Freddie, I don't mind taking this up with you afterwards and explaining it in more detail if you want. Let's take it up afterwards, because I've got to get to other aspects of the platform and I can see my time is moving. But happily, I'll stay with you. No problem.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to exit the platform, and now I'm going to log in as a teacher. And I'm going to look at this from the teacher's perspective, all the things that I've shown you now. So I'm going to log out. And now I'm going to log in as a teacher.
Jack, I'm sorry, I have another question.
Go for it. Yes, okay. I'm listening.
It's about the midterm test. It's because yesterday night, my students told me that they were answering this test in Spanish. I was shocked because it's supposed to be in English, and we assume is the browser's translation settings. And well, I don't know if this is right, because
I tell you what, the same. I've got a feeling I understand what's happening. I'm not sure, but the same as I said to Freddie, if you have a few minutes after the end, please stay with me and ask me the question again. And then I'll try and deal with that specific question. I think I understand what the issue is. I'm not sure, but I don't want to go into it now with everybody. I want to go to the teacher's platform the TMS and show the elements that I haven't managed to show yet. So just
Okay,
bear
yes,
with
perfect.
me
Yeah.
if you've got
Yeah.
time. Okay.
Yes, yes, of
thanks.
course. Thank you very much.
Okay, pleasure. Okay, so here we go. I'm going now to the TMS, and I wanted to show you how to do, first of all, the communications, the notification. So we go to communication, you go to notification center. You remember here were the three things that I created. One with the links, one as a reminder, one which was personal. I created those, and I can choose. This is like Freddie, you asked, or somebody else asked. I can hide it. You can't do anything unless you hide it. I hide it, and once I hide it, that means I can do anything with it. So remember, if it's there published, you can't do anything. You have to first hide it, and then you can edit it, delete it, publish it again. Remember, you've got to be aware of that. Otherwise, you'll start clicking. You won't understand why it's not working. You have to hide it in order to work on it. Okay. If you want to create a new one, which you will, and all of you should go ahead and try it. It's fun. Go to new. And here it is. You choose your notification name. So this is whatever I'm choosing. New year. And this is I choose who I want to give it to. Do I want to give it to my demo class, to my training class? This is the name of your class. You say, okay. If you're an administrator, it would say, do you want to give it to your teacher or to the student? The administrator can give it to both. You can choose a class student or class teacher, or both. Okay, so that you get different rights. Then you write whatever you want. You've got the date. Okay, you write your title, whatever that may be. You write your message. And if you want this button that is a link, you keep it there and you add the link over here. If you don't want it, you just get rid of it. If you don't get rid of it, it'll appear empty and it looks strange. So just either it's there or it isn't. If it's there, you want to call this button something. You want to call it orientation video that you've got for the university. I don't know what. And then you put the link in over here, you press save. In addition, you've got all of these pictures here, image 1, image 2, image 3, or you can upload your own image like I did. You press save and you will have the notification. It will appear here, you press publish, and then the student will get it. It's as simple as that. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and it's really very worthwhile doing it. It creates a great sense of communication. The teacher knows you're around. I mean, the students get a sense of you being there. Okay, so that's the one. The next was the online sessions. You probably have realized a lot of these were created to make online teaching a lot easier. They're useful all the time, but they came as a result of the need for the development of online teaching that we all went through. And as I said, EduSoft was trying to answer these needs. So these are the ones, that's the things that you're seeing at the moment. So here, again, the same story. Here you want to create, you can edit any of them. You click one and you can edit it. You know what, let me edit it rather than new, but it comes to the same thing. You will find here, it's already filled out, online lesson. This is the name. I choose my class. I can choose all my classes if I want. Choose one class. I say, okay. I can choose a group if you remember from last time. I can choose one student if I want. Individual student meetings. Let's say I want to interview students. Oral, interview students, and they got to talk to me. So I want to set up Zoom sessions. I can do that. Okay. And then I put in the date that I wanted to begin, the date that I wanted to end, the time. It's usually an hour or 2 hours, however long your lesson is. And whatever link you have, you place in the link. My default is for Teams. So I can press Teams, but it could be Zoom. It can be anything. You press save, and then it appears on the platform. It appears on the platform and you can see it. So that's with regard to the notifications. Then with regard to assessment, I did this, but I did this too quickly yesterday. I want to just make sure you got it. Assessment, there are aspects here that are new. because the whole testing center is new, as I try to explain to you. So things work slightly differently, or may work slightly differently, depending. Not everybody this will affect. Okay. The test environment we've got here, test assignment, test configuration. I'm going to test assignment. And now I want to assign my tests, my midterm, my final. Anybody uses the TOEIC and is through our system, also that. Okay, so test. Let's say I want to do the midterm test. I'm going to select my class. And I'm going to select, I'm going to say go. So I'll get a list of all of my students. I should get a list of all my students. Oh, because I selected the wrong class. I'm 2 years ago. I'm 3 years ago. Okay, sorry. I was wondering why there were no students in my class. Midterm test training, go. Okay, so now here are my students, and I want to give them the basic one midterm test. I want to give them all that basic one midterm test. This is the time, this is the date, this is the day, these are my times, and I press save. You've not selected any students. Thank you very much. I needed that advice. Select all. I want to give it to all my students. I can give it to one, I can give it to all. Now I press save. And it says, hey, you got conflicts. Very important little notice this. You've never seen this before. I mean, it's been around for a little while, but it's relatively new. Okay, you've got conflicts. Let's see, does it say you want to check the conflicts or you want to save anyway? If it saves anyway, it will save it over what I've done. But let's see what the conflicts are. And it says, I've got 3 blue dots and 1 yellow dot. So let's go to my blue. This student was already assigned the test in the past and either didn't take it or didn't complete it. You can assign the test to the student again if you want to give the student a second chance. So it tells me, or the yellow says, the student has been assigned another test in a different course. If you assign the student this test, the other test will be unassigned. Excuse me. Or if it were red, the student already did this test and has a score. If the student takes the test again, the current score will be deleted. So it tells you if you've got any kind of problems, and you can decide what you want to do, to assign, to unassign. It just basically allows you to have a lot of control. So that is an important aspect of the new testing environment, this ability to see what's going on, to have a very clear picture, the status, and all of these conflicts. If they do come up, hopefully you don't have any conflicts and everything is clear. But sometimes this test taking might cause conflicts of some kind, so you've got to manage them. Then I want to go to reports. In reports, there was something which I did not even relate to yesterday, which was called the gradebook. Now, the gradebook works like this. The administrator creates the template for the gradebook for different courses. It could be the same for the whole institution, but for each set of courses, there is a gradebook which can apply. That gradebook, I stress, is where students' grades are entered manually because they're not automatically entered onto the platform. They come from outside. They come from attendance, or they might come from an oral test, or they might come from a project presentation, or they might come from a role play that they graded on. I don't know what kind of grading you might have. You may or you may not have. But if you do have, how do you bring the whole system together? And this is one way to do it. So I'm going to click here on gradebook. I'm the teacher. And I'm going to show you 2 types. I choose my class. And in this case, I'm choosing my course, which will be the first one, because basic 1 I did in one way and basic 3 I did another, so that you can see how it works. This was just for attendance. In other words, if I want to track attendance and be able to get a report of attendance, my name is here. This is lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Okay. And I simply click in it. If the student came, didn't come, came. And it gives me in the end the tally of that student. It counts it and adds it up. And these columns can be added every week, or it can be set up in advance. So that's attendance. This grade here, this percentage actually, can be linked to the matrix. And I told you about this before. The matrix is a feature which allows, which follows every course and every student, brings all the grades together. It's possible to use that, and then it brings in, if you want, this grade here can be linked to it so that it appears there also. Here I want to give you another example. I did it for a different course just to show you. Here I've got my students, and I've got here lesson is attendance. So I could have a few of these, whatever, but it's either yes or no. So it's yes or no. These, I can have a grade out of 50, I can have a grade out of 100, I can have a grade out of 10. I can decide whatever I want. And the computer will automatically translate that into a percentage. Okay, so here the role play, let's say I gave 70 for the role play. It says, no, you can't, because it was defined as a grade out of 50. Okay, so I'll give the person a grade out of, no problem, I'll give the grade out of 50, and I'm going to give him 45. He did very well. Okay, here, the grade is out of 10. I'm just showing you this as options. They should all be out of 100, they should all be out of 10, whatever's comfortable for you. But I'm just showing you that it's possible. And if I give a grade here out of whatever I give, okay, and then this one is either you sent me an article or you didn't send me an article. Either you talked or you didn't talk. It's a yes, no. So I've created this, and in the end, I will have in each case, I'll get the final for attendance, the final for projects, the final for role plays, and I might want to keep that grade. I might want to export it and have it as an Excel document, and then have my grades. Even if I never connected with the platform again, I just can have my grades. I've got them here. It can be exported. I can share them. I can upload them somewhere else. I can fill in another form on Canvas or whatever, anything else that you may use. So it's just another option which exists. And I want to remind you that in order to do this, if you need help other than this kind of help in the implementation, you will have how to set up a gradebook. Okay, the instructions on how to do it. It's quite niggly, so try it. When you work on it, I advise you to look at this before you start. Once you understand the principle, it's easy. Okay, but as I said, it's the administrator who sets it up for the courses, and then the teacher just has the grades, the place to put in the grades. So it's more the administrator that actually has to do the work initially, and the teacher afterwards fills in the information. So I'm now leaving the platform, and I'm going to stop sharing. I think that's oh, so I will talk about it, but there's nothing for me to show. While I talk, I'm also going to do this. I'm sending you a survey in the chat. So while I'm talking, if you don't leave without filling out the survey, it's important for us to know what you think. But anyway, let me first explain. The last point was the scheduler. So I have talked about it. There's nothing for me to show because there's nothing for me to show. But the scheduler allows you as an institution to not deal with your weekly or monthly assigning of content on whatever level you want, if you have a clear program that you can easily put into a timeline that's sort of solid and makes sense. And you know that on this date, this happens, on this date, this happens. If it's very clear, then it can be defined by time, or it can be defined, as I said, by achievement. With this grade, once you get this grade and this completion, then the next thing will open up for you. You can then move on. Marcella knows about this very well. Their whole institution works on the basis of that concept. But there are lots of other institutions use it too. Not everybody does. It has to be set up with EduSoft. It's not something you do by yourself. It requires quite a lot of simply just not a lot of work. It's just you've got to have all the information clear, and then it can get set up and it can run. So I think again we've come to the end of the session. It's our third session for those who've come to all three. Some of you have been at 2, some of you have been at 1. Again, I say you will be informed how you can access the ones that you haven't been at if you still want to. For me, it's been both tiring and enjoyable. I've worked quite hard to make sure that I make it clear. And I've worked quite hard to make sure that I'm presenting something which I think is useful. I hope I have managed to do that for you. And it's been very nice, even though we haven't chatted. It's nice to see you, the names and faces of people that I've worked with throughout Central, South, unfortunately not North America, Jill, at least not personally. And others, but certainly it's nice to have you and see you all here. And I'm always around if you need any assistance. And EduSoft is around if you need any assistance. What we probably do best is we like to make sure that things run as best as possible. And we're happy to do so. If you succeed, we succeed, you succeed, it's good for everybody. So thank you all. Thank you very, very much. Take a minute to do the survey. And now I'm open for questions or comments or anything you'd like. I'm going to stop the recording now.